And speaking of Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, now joining us live from the Wells Fargo Center, I think he's popping champagne for the end of the preseason. It is Charlie O'Connor. How's it feel to be done the exhibition slate, Chuck?
It feels fantastic, William. So happy to be done.
We're all fist pumping as well because you heard me and I heard you on the first question. What a beautiful start to year two. The first question I have to ask you tonight is about a guy who wasn't in the lineup, Jett Luchanko, in a game where all but like 3.5 guys were non-NHLers for the Flyers. Should we read anything into this? Like, oh, he's with the NHL group. He doesn't need to play in this one. Or, all right, we've seen enough.
Well, in all honesty, I don't think the fact that he's not in this game, I don't think you should read much into that at all, truthfully. I really don't. What I do think you can read into, which is I think was the far more important tidbit of information from today, was the fact that, and just to explain this for people who aren't aware of how the practice worked today, despite the fact that it was a game day, they really didn't do a traditional pregame skate. What they did is they had the NHL group basically did a normal practice, and that included guys like Noah Cates and Eric Johnson and Garnet Hathaway who played in this game. They did a full practice that was mostly focused on 5-on-5 systems and more or less what the team is probably going to be doing this season in terms of style and tactics and X's and O's. Luchanko was in that group. Alexei, who the day before it was him and Luchanko were in the NHL group, Alexei was not in the NHL group this morning. So to me, that is a lot more telling because we're talking about they're learning systems. They're practicing the tactics they're going to be using this season. That's telling that Luchanko was in that group. Now, I'm not saying that means for sure he's making the team, but that was a lot more telling than him being in the roster tonight or not. Like, there are so many reasons why he might not play in this game, why he's like, oh, he's played in a lot of games, you wanted to see more, whatever. The fact that he was practicing with the NHL group, that makes me raise my eyebrows significantly.
Man, I as much as I have come around to your way of thinking, Charlie, that it probably makes sense for him to go back to Guelph, have another year of juniors. Damn, this would be really fun if like a true 18-year-old makes this team and is in the lineup on October 11th. Speaking of youngsters who might be in the lineup October 11th, I know when you asked John Tortorella, like he talked about the competition for the 8th defenseman. He said, oh, yeah, Andrae beat out Jennings. I had Jennings penciled in, and now Andrae is in that spot for number 8, and you pressed him, and he said, yeah, probably not taking 8 on the trip. You think he might have seen something tonight that made him think he kind of deserves to make this trip?
I think Andrae's played very well, and I think this was his best game. Now, again, it's worth remembering, yes, this may have been his best game. This is a best game against AHL competition. So there is a little bit of an advantage he probably has as opposed to the games he was playing against the, more or less NHL teams. Obviously, this was an easier game. That said, this was his best game of the preseason, and I thought he's had a, generally speaking, good preseason. I thought he was, tonight, impactful in all 3 zones, obviously picks up a ton of points. He got a ton of minutes. I thought he was great. And I think that, this was the way you want to end a camp. This was the exclamation point that you want to put on your camp. And at the very least, I think Andrae has very much solidified his place as the preferred call-up if and when someone gets injured. Like, I think that is definite now. It may have been maybe in a little bit of question before this game. He was really good in this game. Does that mean he's going to make the team? Again, everything that John Tortorella said earlier this week still holds. He doesn't want to take 8 defensemen. Did Andrae do enough to push a projected starter out of the lineup for game 1? I don't know, but if he's I don't think they're going to bench Yegor Zamola for game 1. I don't think they're going to bench Jamie Drysdale for game 1 or Nick Seeler. They've been praising Ristolainen, and they're not wrong to, for having a great camp. So I don't think they're benching him either. So, I mean, I guess you could bring him along as a reward for a camp well done, but also, why would you? Like, he needs to play. He's still a prospect. So, Bill, I see where you're coming from. And look, I'll be dead honest with you, and I know I'm coming at this from a perspective of I don't think Luchanko should be on this team. But, I mean, I think Emil Andrae has outplayed Jett Luchanko. He's at a better camp than Jett Luchanko has, but it doesn't seem like that matters to John Tortorella because he really, really seems to want Jett Luchanko on this team. So I don't think that the fact that Emil Andrae had a real good game tonight is going to sway him one way or the other.
The one reason, and I agree, he needs to play. Like, it's stupid to keep him up here if he's going to be like the 7 or the 8. Then just have him in the AHL. However, the Phantoms regular season starts October 12th, and then they don't play again until Friday, 10/18, the day after the Flyers end their trip. So he could realistically only miss one game, and if he gets into 1 or 2 of the NHL games on the trip, he would lose out on 0 ice time. That's the only thing I'm thinking. But obviously last year they said the demotion messed with his head and stuff. We'll talk about all this tomorrow, Charlie. I just want to clue you in on my my way of thinking. But am I being hyperbolic when I say Andre's play through the neutral zone and then to set up the passing play for Cates' goal was a little chemo teaming-ish tonight? Just a little chemo teaming-ish.
I think you're probably being a little hyperbolic. But
Well,
I think Andre had a great game, and I do really like him as a prospect. So I am an Emil Andrae fan. I think he had a strong camp. I tweeted this out, and I very much believe it. I think, despite the fact that I don't think he's going to make this opening night roster, I think he had a better camp this year as compare that to last year when he did make the opening night roster. I just think the difference between the two seasons is that last season they thought the defense was a lot worse than they think it is now. So they threw Andre on the roster because it was like, well, we need a puck mover and he can do that thing. Yeah, he makes a lot of mistakes, but he can do that thing. Then they realized Sean Walker was pretty good. Now they've traded for Jamie Drysdale. Nick Seeler took a step up. So there's less urgency to put him on the roster. But I think he had a better camp this year than last year, and I like the fact that he's progressing. So I come out of this preseason and this training camp feeling good about Emil Andrae, feeling better about Emil Andrae than I did a month ago. And that's the thing that I'm the happiest about.
Awesome. What's up, Charlie? JP over here. Wanted to ask real quick about the other storyline here tonight. Alexei. What did you think of his game? Did he do enough to earn an opening day roster spot?
Well, he scored a goal. I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was incredible. Like, I thought Andre was the best of the young players at any position. But I think he was fine. And in the end, you know, this is another guy. And I hate that I am doing this because the last thing I want to do is, like, throw cold water on Jett Luchanko. But Alexei, in my mind, is another guy who I think had a better camp than Jett Luchanko. So it's just one of those things where, you know, do I think he did enough? Yeah, I thought he did enough before this game to be on the team. If you've decided that you're not going to take 8 defensemen, I think Alexei has had a better camp than Luchanko. If Luchanko makes the team, the Flyers clearly disagree with me, or at least they are so high on the individual aspects that Luchanko brings that they are going to use that to, you know, not overshadow, but basically that will make up for the fact that Alexei did more offensively and that Alexei was, in my mind, more consistently impactful in the offensive zone. They maybe just feel like, well, we need a really fast center because we don't have any centers that are both really fast and legitimately good at defense and have offensive upside. You know, maybe that's what their thinking is. And Torts really doesn't like his center position and thinks, well, this kid might be able to help. Alexei's a wing. So maybe that's ultimately what decides it. But I think Alexei had a fine game. I don't think it was dominant. I think it was fine. And I think he's done enough to make this team. But I'm not the one who's making the decisions.
Charlie, there was a real showdown tonight. Fedotov v. Kolosov. What did you think?
Well, I mean, the sheen maybe came a bit off of Kolosov, at least compared to the performance he had earlier in the week. I don't think he was bad. A lot of the goals he gave up were pretty unstoppable. That said, he wasn't as sharp as he was in the second half of the game a few days ago. I think that's undeniable. You didn't see the quick glove quite as often. There was one save later in the third period where you saw it, and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. He can still do it, and he moves really well. You can when you're in person, you can see the skating pop even more because he just moves so quickly off his pivots, side to side, things like that. So it's exciting. He's an exciting prospect, but I do think that this performance maybe can calm down the idea of, well, maybe he jumps Fedotov right away. Look, if Fedotov struggles to start the year for the first, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, look, all bets are off as long as Kolosov stays in North America. But I don't get the sense that he played well enough tonight to change their plan. And their plan very much is starting the season with Sam Harrison as their number one and Ivan Fedotov as the backup.
Charlie, what the hell was Sawyer Bolton doing out there tonight? And also, how did he get cleared to come back? Like, that's that is insane to me. And then he fights again and gets himself, 17 minutes worth of penalties. What the hell? What's he doing out there?
He had a busted lip.
Well, I think it was abundantly clear that he was embarrassed by the way the first fight ended. So what he does is the minute he gets back out there in a shift against, what was it, LaBerge? Not Pascal LaBerge,
yeah.
another LaBerge.
Yeah.
And you could see it. I don't know how much they showed it on TV, but he literally just throws his gloves off and then turns around and starts yapping at LaBerge. I assume to be like, why don't you fight me, you whatever? And then LaBerge obliges, and then they have a much better fight than the first fight. But that was very clearly just him trying to avenge himself because he felt like, he takes the one punch, goes down. Then it seemed like after the first fight, he tried to convince the official to let him continue to fight. And the official's like, no, you just got knocked down in one punch. I'm not letting you fight. I'm not letting you jump back into the fight. So he had to do it another way. And look, there are some people who really like Sawyer Bolton. I think tonight you saw why there are some people who really like Sawyer Bolton, because he drops the gloves a lot. And he throws a lot of punches. I don't see an NHL caliber player, but hey, this was functionally an AHL game. And he treated it like an AHL game. Like, when he did that second fight, my first thought was, like, this is straight out of some 90s Frank Bialowas crap.
Yes.
Bill must be eating this up.
I was shocked that he was allowed to come back into the game, but I also said immediately after the first fight, if they let him come back, he's going to fight again. Like, right. That was very obvious. You got any more, JP?
Yeah, gotta love that in the last preseason game. But Charlie, did anyone else stand out for you here tonight?
Look, JP, I'll be honest. This game was a total waste of everyone's time. So, no, I wasn't, like, taking copious notes about how everyone looked. Emil Andrae popped. I thought Anthony Richard was solid. I thought he was around the same as Luxell. He was impactful. He scored more points. He looked fast. He's probably the only other guy. But I'm writing a piece that is not on this game because, again, this game was a waste of all of our times. It should not have been played. I'm writing another article that is not on this game, and I was mapping that out during the game. So,
J.R. Vaughn's goal?
Yeah, that was nice. Cool. Good job, JR. Have fun in Lehigh.
This was very much Eagles-Jets fourth preseason game.
For sure.
The annual toilet bowl vibes. Like a game that has since been stricken from the NFL schedule, Last thing, Chuck. I thought Oliver Bonk, now listen, he hasn't had the strongest camp, hasn't really stood out, and that's fine. He's 19, go back to juniors, make Team Canada, all that stuff, cool. But I thought he kind of rebounded tonight. I thought he made some plays down low. He battled well, a couple of assists early. What'd you think of Bonk?
Yeah, I liked his finish to camp. He's not going to make the team. Everybody knows that. I did ask Darryl Williams after the game, because he was the head coach behind the bench, so we got him after the game, about the fact that, look, even though I think we all know Bonk isn't going to make this team, how important do you think it was for him to go out on a high note? He said, yeah, he liked the fact that, Torts earlier this week, and I'm sure he was doing it behind closed doors too, he kind of challenged Oliver Bonk, said, you play too slow. He's got to play faster. Smart kid, a lot of talent, got to play faster. And I think they like the fact that tonight, even though it's not going to mean he's going to make the team, it's very much not going to mean that. It shows that he doesn't sulk. He doesn't let it kill his confidence, that he can take those public critiques and then integrate it into his game and be better. I think they like that about him, and I'm sure they like the fact that he responded the way they wanted him to being publicly called out by the guy who they hope in a year or 2 years or however long is going to be his NHL coach, as long as John Tortorella keeps a coaching.
All right, Charlie, the next time we do this, it will be for real. But before that, I will see you at 4 o'clock tomorrow for our regularly scheduled programming.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.